Hey guys, it is Ndoplex here. I am pretty much back to 100% health. However, over here in the UK, it is hot as hell, so I have got the fan on. So I do apologise if you hear any loud noises. Hopefully I can cut it out in the editing. But today it was requested in the previous video. If you haven't seen that, we ranked every single unique weapon in Borderlands 2. And in that video, it was requested by this lovely viewer that I should do shields next. And so we are here a few days later ranking every shield in Borderlands 2 for your entertainment. Here we go. First up, the B shield. To no one's surprise, this is going in S tier. It's obvious. The B can make some of the worst weapons in the game into some of the best weapons in the game, and it just makes the best weapons even better. You get bonus amp damage on every single shot as long as your shield doesn't break. The B's amazing. It's pretty easy to farm as well, just from Hunter Hell Quest or the trees in Tiny Tina's DLC. Without a doubt, S tier shield on the B. Next, we have Shield 1340. This is the brother to the shotgun that we talked about last episode, the Hyperion shotgun. And it's just basically a standard absorb shield. However, it is a little bit annoying because it talks to you. So if it was a standard absorb shield, I'd maybe put it in C, but it's kind of annoying. Just go for another absorb shield. I'll put it in D tier. Next up, we have the Aquatas, which is kind of an interesting shield. It's got a brother weapon that actually pairs with the shield. So what it does is every Veritas or Aquatas that you have equipped in your party, so if it's just you and you've got the Aquatas and the Veritas equipped, you're going to get 20% bonus fight for your lifetime, so it's 10% per piece. But if your whole team's got these equipped, if everyone's got all of these pieces equipped, then you're going to get a bonus 80% for the whole team on fight for your lifetime, which is okay, it's decent, but realistically there are just kind of better shields out there, so I wouldn't really go out your way to get this one. I'm probably just going to stick it in C tier. Absorb shields are pretty good, but this one's nothing really special. Next up, we have... Oof, do I dare stick another S tier in so soon? I'm going to have to. This is the antagonist. This is an absolutely ridiculous shield. It gives you deflect chance. You can fire homing slag balls at your enemy to slag them. It's got good capacity, good overall stats. You can get it super easily from the Seraph vendors in the Tiny Tina DLC. You see clips of the shield one-shot in raid bosses as like the bullets ricochet like off specifically Hyperion's shield, back onto your shield, back onto Hyperion's, back onto yours, and it will keep bouncing in between, and eventually one bullet might go through, and it might have racked up enough damage to insta-kill the boss. Loads of videos on YouTube, they're pretty impressive, but the antagonist, all in all, is definitely an S tier shield. Next up, we have got the Big Boom Blaster, which is kind of a situational shield. It's a booster shields, and booster shields in Borderlands 2 are notoriously kind of annoying to use. You have to actually run over to the booster and press E to pick it up, which doesn't sound like a big deal, but it gets very tedious and tiresome running over and picking up every single one of these. But the effect is pretty good. It's going to regenerate grenade ammo for you, which is great because there's not really much in the game that allows you to regenerate grenades, aside from like the Tiny Tina lightning grenades and that sort of stuff. So as a way to refresh your grenades infinitely, the Big Boom Blaster is pretty good. But there are definitely better things out there, and ammo crates exist which drop you grenades pretty frequently. I don't know. It's hard to put this any higher than B tier, but it's a solid shield. Just booster shields aren't that great. Next we have the Black Hole. God, it's terrible, the shields. All of them look so similar, don't they? I'm pretty sure loads of them just use the same model. Anyway, the Black Hole is kind of an interesting shield. It drops from Foreman over an opportunity, and I am kind of biased towards this shield because it was one of the first ever legendary drops I got when playing Borderlands 2. Didn't know to farm enemies, that sort of stuff, but I managed to get this to drop. It's kind of a fun effect. It does a Black Hole Nova, which pulls all the enemies into your location and deals shock damage to them. So, as, like, an enemy disrupt, it, like, stops them from shooting at you for a second and that sort of stuff. It's a pretty good shield, all in all, guys. I would have to recommend it. It's not really going to carry you to OP levels like these two above, But definitely for like UVHM, not UVHM, definitely for normal mode and TVHM, this is a super solid shield. I'll stick it in B tier. Next, we have the Blockade. The Blockade is just a super solid shield. It doesn't really do anything special. All it does is it's like a standard shield, but you gain increased resistance when the shield is at full, and then slightly less resistance when it decreases, but you still just gain increased resistances. So all in all, just like a standard overall decent shield. Nothing too special about it. I'd probably stick it... It's probably the best of the shields that don't do anything, so I'll put it in B tier for now. Next, the Cracked Sash. This drops from your Tubby enemies. It's a rare drop from Tubbies. Everyone's sad whenever they see a Cracked Sash because it means you've missed out on your special Tubby legendary drop, and instead you've got this purple Tedious shield. That's all it is. All it is a purple Tedious shield. Tedious shields have quick recharge and quick recharge delay, so they're not bad, but I don't know, the Cracked Sash really isn't anything special at all. Identical to a normal purple Tedious shield. I'm not saying Tedious shields are E tier, but I am saying that this is nothing special in terms of a shield that you should really be using, so I'm putting it in E tier. Next up, we have the Deadly Bloom, which is a bit of an interesting shield. It's a Nova shield, but the special thing about this one is it does an explosive Nova for us, which is pretty good, but I don't know. It's kind of just mid, really. I say it's pretty good. It's pretty good in normal mode when you can actually deal any damage with a Nova shield, but as soon as you get up to like TVHM and UVHM, Nova shields really aren't going to be doing like any damage for you at all. So just an explosive Nova shield. It's, yeah, pretty average. It's funny because you get this from a quest in Overlook, but there's another shield that you get from Overlook that's just way overshadows this shield, so you can just never hear anyone talking about the Deadly Bloom. So I'll stick it down in D tier. Next, we have the Easy Mode. This was added in the Fight for Sanctuary DLC. The Easy Mode is a shield that I talked about last episode when talking about the Peak Opener, which is one of the strongest weapons in the entire game. So yeah, the Easy Mode's perks are just kind of insane. If you equip it with the Peak Opener, you're going to gain 100% bonus damage on your Peak Opener, so double damage on the Peak Opener. And if you have the Relic equipped as well, which is the third part of this set, the hard carry, you're going to gain 300% to your max life and like a 2-minute fight for your life counter, which is just absolutely insane. So it literally turns the Peak into the Easy Mode. Yes, talking about this shield, it is reliant on having those other two in combination, and if you're outside of the Peak and also, say, not using the Peak Opener or anything like that, this shield is basically just a tanky shield. So it's in a bit of a weird niche. The thing is about the end game of Borderlands 2 is a lot of it does revolve around doing the Peak, and so if you do the Peak relatively easily and efficiently, you can quickly work your way up to OP10 and then start maxing out your gear. So for that reason alone, I feel like it's got to go in A tier. It's a bit of a weird one because it does rely on the other weapons to be super good and you're in the Peak, but it's an amazing shield for what you're using it to. A tier if you're in the Peak. If you're not in the Peak, this is just a standard tanky shield. I'd probably put it down in sort of D tier. Don't use it really outside of the Peak in that combination. Okay, next we have the Evolution. Now, this is a elemental resistance shield and max health shield, and these are notoriously good just through generic play in Borderlands 2. You're going to get something like 86% on a max roll or something like that, elemental resistance, and you're going to get a hell of a lot of health, good capacity, not too long shield charge delay, just a really solid evolution shield. I'm going to stick it up in A tier. Next we have the Hoplite, which is another one of those that has special effects when you're within a party. Each party member that has a Hoplite equipped is going to gain 20% increased capacity for their Hoplite for each party member. So if you have 4 party members, you can nearly double the capacity of the shield. And it's a pangolin shield, so it already has just ridiculous capacity. The trouble is with a Hoplite is it makes you super slow. The whole point of it, you're supposed to be slow and tanky, but being slow in Borderlands 2 is absolutely terrible, and by the time you're in OP levels and stuff like that, it doesn't really matter how high your shield is, the enemies are still going to one-shot you down to health gate, so it's not super useful. You can only get it from Pirate Pete, which is a raid boss itself. You've got to kill, so it's difficult to get, and then once you've got it, it's kind of not great. So, yeah, I don't really ever see myself using it. I can't quite put it in F tier, that's reserved for a special few, but E tier, the hoplite just really isn't good. Unlike its brother, the Fabled Tortoise, which drops from blue in the Caustic Caverns. And the Fabled Tortoise is a fantastic shield. Unfortunately, like the hoplite, it slows you down while you have your shield up, that sort of stuff. Normal stuff there for the Fabled Tortoise. However, the special mode on the Fabled Tortoise is when the shield breaks, you actually gain increased movement speed. And so what you can do in late game is there are a few class items in the game that reduce your shield capacity. Now, if you have a lower level Fabled Tortoise, like in normal mode, say 25, something like that, and a high enough level class item that's reducing your shield capacity, you can take the Fabled Tortoise's shield capacity all the way to 0. And that means you can have a constant movement speed boost, which is just absolutely amazing. So, in the early games, this shield's kind of not very useful. You're going to get slowed down when you're using it normally. When your shield breaks, you get the burst of speed, but hey, whatever. But when you get to the late game of Borderlands 2 and you start speedrunning stuff, you want to do activities quickly and stuff, the Fabled Tortoise becomes an absolutely fantastic shield just for the extra speed it provides you. I was talking about before, you don't really need the shields in OP10, they're going to get rinsed anyway, so you might as well get some good movement speed. I'm putting it up in A tier. Next we have another shield that just looks exactly the same as the antagonist, but this is the Flame of the Firehawk. And as you'll probably know, this is an absolutely integral build to one of our favourite Vault Hunters, Krieg. His Flame of the Firehawk build. The trouble with this shield is it is a Nova shield, and you get it from a Lilith quest, the Cult of the Following. If you go all the way to the end, you'll get this legendary shield, and it's a Nova shield that, while your shields are at 0, instead of the single Nova proc that you normally get, this can proc over and over and over again, basically for the entire duration that your shield is at 0. Krieg's got skills that can make his shield recharge delay, sorry, is what I'm trying to say. The shield recharge delay lasts for much longer, so you can constantly have your shield at 0. It's good for like Roid shields, but especially good for the Flame of the Firehawk. So you're constantly getting these high damage Fire Novas to proc, healing you all the time if you're holding a Grog Nozzle. That works. This shield is just really fantastic. It's good on every Vault Hunter, but really shines on Krieg. I would put it in S tier, but the fact that it's only good for Krieg, really, like it's only amazing for Krieg, I feel like I'm going to put it in A tier. Great shield all in all, though. Next, we have the Hide of Terramorphous. This is a notoriously annoying shield to get. You have to kill Terramorphous the Invincible, which in himself is not that bad a boss, but has so many drops in his loot pool. It's so oversaturated that trying to get a Hide of Terror is so rare. Not only that, you have to get one with like Malawan parts to juice up the Roid damage. So what the Hide of Terror does is it's a Roid shield, but also a Spike shield and also a Nova shield. So it's kind of got all three combined. But what it is it has the highest melee Roid damage in the game. So if you're spec'd into specifically a 0 melee build, the Hide of Terramorphous is the best for you there. It really is like a fantastic shield, but it's just so hard to get and so annoying to get, and unless you get an absolutely perfect one, it's just melee just doesn't really work that well all the way up into like OP10, that sort of stuff. I love melee builds like at UVHM level 80, but as soon as you go into OP levels, it just starts to struggle a lot. So as far as like melee builds go, the Hide of Terror is definitely one of the best shields you can get. Oh, I don't know if I can S tier it though. I really don't, because it's the same thing as Krieg. Unless you're doing a melee build, it's really not worth it, and for that reason, I'll put it in A tier with the Flame of the Firehawk, just because it's very situational, like specific to Vault Hunters. So, there we go. Next, we have another identical looking shield, but this is the Impaler. This is just a spike shield that drops from the Warrior or Handsome Jack, depending if it's in the Wonderlands DLC. And it's just kind of a spike shield, doesn't really do anything interesting, it's only ever corrosive. Spike shields are not bad in the early game, like normal mode, but as soon as you get up to the higher levels, they really aren't very useful. I'm going to throw this down in D tier with our other decent normal mode shields. Just a quick one while I'm editing this video. I just want to thank you guys real quick for all the support. Over the past couple of videos, you guys have been absolutely amazing. We are nearly at 300 subs already, well on our way to 1,000. Thanks very much for tuning in, and please like and sub if you're enjoying these. Cheers, guys. Next, we have the Love Thumper. Now, this is the partner to the Deadly Bloom that I was talking about. Both of these you acquire from Overlook. However, no one talks about the Deadly Bloom because everyone's too busy talking about the Love Thumper. This is a Roid Shield with something like a 200-second delay on it. So once it breaks, it's pretty much always active. And this gives you bonus melee damage, being a Roid Shield, but also your melee hits produce like an explosive AoE around them, so deal damage in a big area. This shield's just absolutely brilliant for any sort of like mid to late game and early game, obviously, melee builds. This shield is really fun. Also, if you're playing in a fire team, if there's like 3 or 4 of you in a fire team, the Love Thumper actually does friendly fire damage, so kind of fun to troll your teammates that way as well. It is a bit annoying if you're using it amongst your team, but this shield's really great for any sort of melee focus build throughout the middle of the game. You're sort of going to want to be Love Thumpering, and then right at the end of the game when you're trying to min-max high spec, you're going to want to be using the Hide. So I'll put it up in A tier. This Love Thumper, the Hide of Terror, although has higher Roid damage, all in all, the Love Thumper can actually, like, doesn't matter what Vault Hunter you're on, can seriously carry you like through all of the like mid game, especially if you manage to get a Ruby with a blade on it. Oh my god, just Ruby with a blade and the Love Thumper and just gut a town on everything. Next we have Captain Blade's Manly Man Shield. It's kind of a similar to the Love Thumper. However, instead of giving you like a bonus plus say like 200,000 Roid damage, this is just giving you a bonus plus 40% of your melee damage, and that's just never as much as the bonus Roid damage you get, like just the base value. So it's not that good. So the plus 40% bonus damage as explosive melee, what it gives you 40% of your melee damage extra as explosive damage on your melees, but then also you're going to take more damage from elemental, so every dot damage that's applied to you is going to be increased. Fire damage, corrosive damage, all that sort of stuff is going to deal more damage while you're using the shield due to its curse. It's one of the Pirate Booty cursed items, so it's just kind of not very good. Why wouldn't you just use the Love Thumper? Just so much of a better shield. So I'm definitely going to put this down. Is it a... yeah, I feel like I can't... I'll put it in E tier, because if you do get it just through the normal, you know, story of the Pirates Booty DLC, it's alright to use, you know, it's not terrible like some of these shields, but it's just, there are way better things out there. So, there's the thing. Next we have the Neogenator, which drops from the Spyco, or whatever he's called, or Sully the Blacksmith. The Neogenator is a elemental resistance shield with a bonus health. Exactly the same as the evolution, except the evolution just has better stats, higher capacity, all that sort of stuff. But in general, it's just a really solid shield. I'd probably put it in C tier, because if you get a normal... in fact, no, that's harsh. I'll put it in B tier. It's a really just solid elemental resistance shield. Nothing really much more to say. Next we have the Order. This is another one that pairs with its brother weapon, the Law. If you have the Law equipped and you use this shield, the Order, then all of your melee attacks will give you healing, which is a pretty good effect. It's a Roid shield as well, so you're going to get bonus melee damage while getting the heal boost. So bonus melee, bonus healing, plus, pretty good Roid shield. I'll put it up in B tier. Next up, oh boy, we have the Pot of Gold. This is going to be our first F tier shield, and I'll tell you why. The stats on this shield are just like nothing, doesn't matter, they're there, but there's nothing to be impressed about at all. But the thing which this shield is, it's a one-time obtain from the Bagman, which is one of Mick Zafford's brother. You go through the Clan Wars quest and you'll find him. You only have a 1 in 3 chance to get this. It's a one-time kill on the guy, so you think, whoa, this shield must be pretty good. Yeah, it absolutely sucks. It's a booster shield, which we already said are not that good. However, this booster shield drops you money, and you might think, money, you say? I do like myself a bit of money. Yeah, well, try $10 or less than $10. In normal mode, this is like terrible. But as soon as you get to like OP levels or UVA chip, TVA chip, this shield is just like utterly worthless. So yeah, stay in F tier. Stay down where you belong. Next, we have the Punchy, which is the second highest Roid damage shield in the game, I believe, after the Hide of Terramorphous, but way, way easier to obtain. This is just a buy from the Seraph vendors in the in the Torg DLC. So, really easy to obtain. You can re-roll the vendor's load so you can get a really good Roid damage roll. Overall, just a really solid Roid damage shield. Nothing else special about it other than just a Roid damage shield. But pretty good, pretty high Roid damage. If for any melee builds, this is going to be a true winner. I'm putting it up in B tier. Next up, we have the Retainer, which is another one of our effervescent items added in the Fight for Sanctuary DLC. But this is a Roid shield, but nothing special about the Roid shield. The only good thing about the shield, and I mean the only good thing, is that when you have the toothpick in your hands, which is its brother weapon, again from the Fight for Sanctuary DLC, the toothpick is an effervescent weapon. We rated it last video. If you have that in your hands while you're in the Writhing Deep map area, this is the area where you kill Hadorak's Invincible, it allows you to move really, really fast and jump really, really high. And the reason this is so good is it allows you to farm the rocket launcher chest at the top of the cavern in the Withering Deep. And this rocket launcher chest is how you're going to farm like all of your late game top nears. You can get like Bada Booms, the legendary rockets, all kind of amazing rockets, super easy from this chest, which is respawnable every time you save quit, it loads back in. And without that, unless you're rocket jumping with Salvador, it's going to take you like a good while to get to that chest. And with this shield and weapon combo, it's going to like cut that time in half, probably more. It's probably going to like cut it into quarters the time. So you're just getting more farms. So in itself, this shield is like, don't bother using it. It's not really good for anything. But if you're specifically farming the rocket launchers, it does have that niche where it is like incredibly good for that certain thing. So, because it's allowing you access to something really powerful, I can't put it any lower than B tier, really. It's kind of like a Fabled Tortoise, but the Fabled Tortoise you can use everywhere. This you can just use in one map. Don't get me wrong, the Fabled Tortoise doesn't grant as juiced stats as a Retainer does, but you can use the Fabled Tortoise anywhere at any time. So, can't really put it higher than B, but I definitely can't put it lower than B, so that's where it's going to stay. The Sponge is basically the same as the Punchy. It's just like a good Absorb Shield. Absorb Shields are pretty good because it doesn't matter about your capacity when you're getting shot by enemies. If you absorb the bullet, you take no damage. And also, it can be used for niche things like recharging rocket ammo, that sort of stuff. But the Sponge is basically the highest Absorb Shield you can get other than the obvious Sham. So, as far as Absorb Shields go, it's a good one, and it's very easy to farm from the Seraph vendors in the Badass Creator DLC. Same as the Punchy. If you just want a decent shield, you want a decent Absorb Shield, but you don't want to go farming the super difficult ones to get, go get yourself a Sponge. You won't regret it. It's a pretty decent shield. Next up, the Cradle. The Cradle has been a source of many memes throughout the Borderlands community as possibly one of the worst shields in Borderlands. This drops in Overlook from Henry, which is coincidentally the quest reward for the Love Thumper. And now, I didn't say before, but the Love Thumper is a quest reward, so you will have to read-only farm it if you want to get multiple rolls of it. But the Cradle is the legendary drop from Henry, and you go from one of the best shields in the game up in A tier to one of the absolute worst. The Cradle is a Tediore shield, which its special thing is when the shield depletes, it chucks out a copy of the shield from your body in a straight arc line in front of you to deal explosive damage. Now, in normal mode, this can occasionally get the odd kill, and it is kind of fun to use it as like in normal modes you might go down, and then randomly it will just like hit an enemy and you get a second wind. Kind of okay. There's absolutely no way to aim this unless you're literally looking straight in front of you and it just randomly hits an enemy. And the damage is really not good. Like, not good at all. The other thing with the shield is it doesn't scale into the OP levels. Yes, your like shield capacity and all that sort of stuff scales, but the damage of the actual explosive booster that it provides doesn't scale. So this is just terrible. I find the cradle more often kills me than it does ever kill an enemy, because you'll be like running upstairs as your shield breaks, the shield will fly out in front of you and just like blow up at your feet and kill you. It's just like totally useless, and then into the OP levels it doesn't even scale in damage. So this is our second F tier shield. Next we have the Rough Rider, which, to nobody's surprise, it is going straight into S tier, and I'll tell you why. Now, I told you about the Fabled Tortoise with its boosts to it. You reduce your shield to 0 and you get like the movement speed boost and stuff like that. That's all well and good, but in the eyes of the game, as it were, your shield technically isn't 0, it just doesn't exist. Now, that is a different thing, because you will not proc like shield break effects like Maya's Breakneck Banshee, like Salvador's Inconceivable, that sort of stuff will not proc with the Fabled Tortoise. You know what they will proc with? The Rough Rider. So the Rough Rider is one of those shields that basically allows you to have constant shield depletion effects, which there are some really strong shield depletion effects in the game, and to have these active all the time is just fantastic. If it didn't do anything else, it would be an S tier shield, but the shield also gives you damage reduction and also gives you increased max health, which is one of the most important stats going into your OP levels. So the shield is just like amazing, absolutely brilliant shield. You get it from of all places, Hammerlock's Hunt DLC. If there's one reason to ever set foot into that DLC, it is for the Rough Rider. You get it pretty early on from the Palling Around quest, I think it is. You go kill the Invincible Bulwark Bullymong, and it's got a 1 in 3 chance to drop the shield. Absolutely fantastic shield. You cannot go wrong with this one. Next up, we have the Sham. Now, you know how I was speaking about the Sponge before being a good absorb shield, and if you don't want to farm the hard ones, then the Sponge is a good one to go for. Yeah, well, the Sham is the one you do want to farm. If you want a good absorb shield, you're gonna want the Sham. Normal absorb shields, sort of, you're gonna get anywhere between like 1 and 25% is like your baseline. Then you've got your special ones, like the Sponge, like the 13-0 Shotgun 1341, Shield 1341, whatever. And then you've got the Sham, which you can get up to a 94%. Guaranteed, the 94% drop rate for the Sham is incredibly rare. Shout out to Joel's Dude for getting one on his live stream. When I was playing Borderlands 2, this is a side rant, but when I was playing Borderlands 2, I'm sort of talking like 10 years ago, when I was kind of new to the game, didn't really know anything about it. It is on my original Xbox 360. I was playing Borderlands 2. I got a normal mode 94 Sham. Now, you know, take my word for it. You don't have to believe me. There's one person who can attest to it, and that's my brother, because he was there with me when I got it. At the time, I didn't think that was anything special, because I didn't know about the rolls, I didn't know anything like that. But like years and years later, when you find out how rare this sort of stuff is, you're like, wow, I actually got that back in the day. That's absolute insanity. But anyway, the Sham is just on a different level to any other absorb shield. It's going straight into S tier. This is used for just normal mobbing when you're absorbing like bandits' bullets. They only have a 6% chance, if you've got a 94 Sham, this is, have a 6% chance to actually deal damage to you. So it's like 1 in 20 of their shots is going to deal damage to you. Absolutely amazing. The capacity, nothing to write home about, but that's not why we're using it. And it allows you to sort of like spam top nears and get all your ammo back, refill your rocket ammo with a Logan's gun, rocket jump with Salvador, using the Sham to absorb rocket ammo. The Sham's just so useful for so many different things. S tier all the way. So next we have another shield that just looks identical. God, this tier list is going to really suck to look at if you're not listening to it. Anyway, we've got another shield that looks identical to the Sham, and it is the Transformer. Oh, I didn't talk about the drop for the Sham. The Sham drops from Bunker, and that's why it's such a pain to farm, because it is a 1 in 30 from Bunker. Bunker has 3 dedicated drops. He has the Bitch, he has the sham, and he also has a head drop, which is the most frustrating thing. So it's a 1 in 30 to get from bunker. That's why it's so rare, it's so hard to find. So it's a 1 in 30, and then if you want to actually try and roll for a really good one, you're talking hours and hours of farming. Look at the, 9,000 runs or something Joltster did to get his. So it's a really difficult farm, but even just like a baseline sham, the worst one I think somewhere around 78%, even that is just like way above the next tier. So even without that, if you even get a crap one, it's still brilliant. Anyway, next we have the Transformer. This is another Absorb Shield. Drops from, is it Pimone or Tumba? In the Wildlife Sanctuary, it is Pimone. Pimone drops the Transformer, Tumba drops the Deliverance. So the Transformer is an Absorb Shield. It doesn't have the highest Absorb chance. I think the most it can get is like 42%, which isn't amazing. We're sort of talking just lower than like Shield 1340, so really nothing special there. Now what the Transformer does do is it grants you immunity to shock damage. But what it also does is it not only grants you immunity to the shock damage, actually when you take shock damage, it recovers your shield. So it's kind of an interesting thing. There are actually a few builds where like if you use a shock like AoE weapon, like the slow hand or something, and shoot it at the floor while you're running, it's going to constantly be like refilling your shield up. So there's some interesting niche uses for it, but really the Transformer's not a great shield. There are just better shields out there, and for like the incredibly niche uses, there aren't really many of them. So I think it's going to be our second C tier one. I feel like that could be mean. No, I feel like I have to put it in B tier. Just the fact that you can absorb shock damage to heal your shield as well is as unique an effect, so that even if it's got a little bit lower capacity, it's still better than just a basic absorb shield, as it were. So, yeah, we'll go with B tier. It looks so lonely in C tier, but I don't think I can put anything else in there. Okay, last but not least, in fact, no, actually last but also least, we have the WTF, the Whiskey Tango Foxtrot, which is another Legionnaire shield that drops from Tubbies. Now, if you do not get the crate, the cracked sash, you've got a pretty good chance that you might get the Whiskey Tango Foxtrot. This is another booster shield, and we have already said about booster shields, they are not that great, and this one takes not that great to a whole new level. All the shield does is, when you get damaged, the booster that it spawns flies out in front of you and deals like shock damage after like a certain amount of time to the enemies in the surrounding area. But unfortunately, the boosters that it drops don't really like fly out towards the enemy. They kind of drop at your feet, so they end up just like blowing you up for shock damage. So 9 times out of 10, you're just going to get yourself killed by the WTF. If you're sort of standing in one place or not moving around that much, you're getting shot by enemies, you're going to get these IED boosters deployed on you, and they're just going to blow you up and kill you. Which is obviously not very good. Now, it's like, not every time when you get shot is an IED booster either. It can just drop normal boosters, but then sometimes they're IED boosters that blow you up. So it's just like, you don't even want to run over and try and pick up the booster shield for extra health, which in itself, for extra shield capacity, which in itself isn't that useful, but like half the time they're going to be IEDs that are going to blow you up. So this shield is definitely another F tier stinker, and I think that is gonna be my final list. I think I'm pretty happy with most of these rankings. Kind of around the C and D tier is just a bit of a weird one. Kind of shields that just don't really do anything special. I prioritize spike shields and like the absorb shield with the extra bonus 10% fight for your life maybe over Nova shields and the just standard absorb shield with the annoying shield that talks to you. So that's the ranking. Those are all the shields in Borderlands 2. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, drop us a like, maybe drop us a sub as well. Ring that bell, I'd really appreciate it. And let me know what you think of these rankings, whether you agree, whether you disagree down in the comments below. And if you want me to do any other tier lists like this, guys, please let me know and I will get right on it for you. Thanks very much for watching, guys. Take care. I'll see you next time.